Hey everybody, Alton Sinclair here today. So today I'm going to be talking about my etude for the TMEA Texas All-State Jazz Etudes. I had the pleasure of writing one for the bass trombone last year, and this year I got to write tenor trombone etude number 3. And I just want to give a brief explanation and some insight to what I was thinking about, as well as some tips for students who are going to be performing this and practicing this, and the educators who will be learning it and teaching it. So it's based on the jazz standard Alone Together, which is normally an AABA 36 bar tune. But this time around, I shortened it by an A section for just time because there's a lot of people who are auditioning and the judges have to be there for a very long time normally, and also in the all-state process. So it's just for time. There was no other reason, right? So it's now a 26 bar tune. So those of you who are looking at it like, man, this is not like 4/4/4. That's why. So, delving into the music, it's written in a salsa groove, and there's multiple implications with that. And a lot of people might confuse salsa as just a general Latin term, but salsa music has multiple interpretations of that music itself, as well as bossas, boleros, tangos, cha-chas, cumbias, and of course, timba music and many other musics that are related to the Afro-Cuban and Latino tradition, right? But for this instance, I want the students and educators to think about feeling this etude in particular as a 2/3 son clave. And I'm going to clap that for you. I'll do 4 bars of it. And this is more centered around the downbeats of the groove, right? And that also means we're thinking about more of a dance because we want to be able to dance to this music. All music was originally intended for social interaction and normally dancing, so we can't lose that aspect of music. So I'm gonna give you a 4 bar example of the 2/3 son clave I'm talking about, and just really try to internalize it when you're shedding along with this, right? So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, as you heard, it's centered around that downbeat, and specifically beat 4 was the ending of the phrases, or of that pattern, as many would say. So think about that whenever you're practicing this. And some great resources for you to check out as far as like who and what to listen to, so that way you can have a better inner ear model and have more interpretations, or I should say more access to interpretations, would be Celia Cruz, Willie Colon, Hector Lavoe, Spanish Harlem Orchestra, Orquesta Divertido, which is a Oscar de Leon band. I may have butchered that, so I'm sorry if I did. Oscar de Leon himself in numerous settings, and many others. And really try to look for that 2/3 son pattern, and try to internalize how the band is feeling, so that way you can understand what I'm talking about whenever I'm telling you about how to internalize this piece of music or the etude that you'll be performing. So, and I'm also going to go into a little bit of depth about some of the exact parts of the music, and at the end of this video there will also be a full out listening demonstration of me playing it. But for now, really think about internalizing this music from your oral listening. And oral listening means listening, but with a different kind of intent. You're listening for something specific. Well, what am I listening for? Is what I would normally say if I was a student. And the answer that I have for students, at least for this etude, you're listening for interpretations of time and how different bands interpret a 2/3 son clave, right? And you're always looking for that clave because that's what you want to gravitate towards with this etude in particular. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples that I'm thinking about whenever I'm playing this, particularly the top of the etude. And I'm going to give you 3 different interpretations. And I want you to focus on the one that I feel is the best. So here's 2 interpretations that you could use, and the last one I'll show you what I'm wanting. So here's the first one. So a little bit more in length as opposed to what's written. Now here's another one. Okay, that's a little bit different because of the lengths of notes for the first 3. But ideally, this is what I would want to hear if I was judging this. A little bit more intentful with both your airstream and, of course, the notes that are on the page and the phrasing. And that's a word that I think is not talked about enough. And I actually have 3 words that go along with that. But for now, intention, having the utmost intention around what you're doing and what you're playing and what's going on. Now, the other two words that I normally associate that with that word with is consistency and awareness. And so I want you to think about intention, consistency, and awareness. Those three normally go hand in hand with people who are really good at what they do, whether it be business or sports or cooking or music or being a parent, whatever it is. So those three words should be really way, way, way in the back of your head whenever you're playing or doing schoolwork or whatever it is. So now let's jump to the bridge, and I want you to think about the stuff that's not written on the page. And once again, this is also in the listening example at the end. But here's the way that I would want to both internalize it, hear it, and demonstrate it for you. Here's the first 4 bars starting on A minor 7, flat 5. You notice that every note had some kind of intention behind that or some kind of thought. Now, this also involved crescendos throughout the repetition of notes, such as the E flats and then the Ds. I was trying to get a little bit louder to show motion of the line. Now I want you to listen to the entire bridge, and I want you to notice the shape that I'm trying to present to you and the listener, and the shape that you should present to your judges whenever you're playing this. Now, you notice there's like a completely different line that wasn't really even written. But this is coming from my interpretations and my knowledge of salsa music as well as knowledge of phrasing. Now, briefly, the very end of this goes up a little bit into the higher register. And it's important for you to think about not more air, but better airspeed and more efficiency. And this comes from internalizing and gauging where you're at as a trombone player. And this has to do with the fundamental art of trombone playing. So, for example, you wouldn't want to use the same air for a low B flat as you would an F out of the staff. So for example, here's the low B flat, right? It's a different kind of air. It's a little bit wider in volume. But now, if you're playing an F with that same kind of volume of air and speed, it may not come out the way that you want it to come out. So it's not as resonant as it could be, and there's 2 reasons why. The slotting hasn't been slotted because there's not the air moving through it in order for the note to slot. And so that has to do with airspeed and volume of air. So maybe think about less air volume but faster movement of air. And that comes from the speed of your air and how fast it's coming out from your diaphragm. You notice that we're not talking about more air at this point. We're talking about the speed of air, right? I know that's very repetitive, but it's important to think about whenever you're playing through these etudes. There's a lot of music to be played, and so that means you have to use a lot of chops. So be efficient. So instead of using this air, you want to use a little bit more pronounced, and that faster air also helps your articulation and the clarity of the note. So, in closing, the number one thing to have in the back of your mind whenever you're starting to learn this etude is the groove behind it and how to internalize that music. If you don't know how the music is supposed to feel, how can you ever achieve a higher level of understanding of music? So that comes from listening and making your inner ear model as strong as possible, so that way you have access to different kinds of resources. And lastly, as I said, there will be a listening clip of me playing throughout the entire etude, and I hope that you use that as a reference point as well. I'm sure there will be other videos posted of this, and it's great to check out those videos too, because those are different interpretations that people have gathered based on their own exposures to this music. So, best of luck to those auditioning. Remember, it's all about making this music dance. Jazz music, salsa music, any music, including classical music, was written as a social happening, which means there's a dance to it, and there's a kind of social interaction with it. So keep it fun and keep it social, but always remember intention, consistency, and awareness whenever you're playing through music in general. So best of luck, and here's that clip. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment or question in the box below. Alrighty, good luck.